we're here to bring out awareness out for everybody to help us and to let everybody know that this is a real problem. This is not a neighborhood problem. This is a national issue. Hopefully by us all gathering here, we can make our voices louder, and hopefully we can get together and make these issues into a reality to where we can all fight and make this a constructive protest. By the way, I just want to also thank our realities who's here from Orange County. We're here in San Diego as well. We are also fighting that very uphill battle of police brutality, and we have shirts for sale to help us fund every activity that we do. So please see any member that's wearing a shirt like this. They're right here on the table. For Mark Carrasco, let's all welcome Elisa Rodriguez. Come on up. For Mark Carrasco and Simon Humler.
Hi, hello. My name's Alexis. Okay, like this? All right. My name's Alexis. Mark is the father of my daughter, Jasmine. He was taken from us in 2011 by 2 veteran cops who decided to come into his home and kill him in his room, in his bed. They shot him 9 times. Shit's been rough, but we're doing it. And I love coming out here and feeling the support from all the other people. It's tragic that we're all here for these circumstances, but it's great to feel not alone. Unfortunately, my cousin was also taken in 2015. He was mentally ill. He was suicidal. His social worker was called. The social worker called the cops. They were supposed to help diffuse the situation, and instead they killed him. So my family has been struck by this injustice twice, and it's bullshit. I'm tired of it. I'm tired. I was talking to these girls earlier. These Sergio and Jonathan were killed by the same fucking pig in the same year. It's bullshit. He's getting paid leave. While these families like me and you, and we're over here struggling. We're struggling and missing our loved ones and having to deal with this shit every fucking day. And I'm glad to see everybody here. And let's fucking let these motherfuckers know. What's up, man?
Mark Carrasco lost his life at the young age of 26. Mark Carrasco lost his life at the young age of 26, leaving behind 2 daughters. My nephew Simon was 33 years old, and they were called to help him. The police were called to help him. Mental disability should not be a crime. And Simon was suicidal. They came out and they shot him and they killed him. We miss our family members. Simon was a very kind-hearted guy, and Mark was a very hardworking, good dad. College graduate. Never in a gang. Never in a gang. Good boys. Good father. Good boys, and they're gone from our family forever. And I just hope to God that any of the people here who have not lost family members never have to face this ever. That's why I'm here. That's why my daughter's here, and that's why my granddaughter's here. And we thank you for all your support.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're here for Jonathan Cornell, shot by Villanueva, July 5th of 2017. Unfortunately, it's just upset how he was murdered. I take it as murder because that's not just, it's not right the way he was killed. Shot more than 10 times, unjustly. No matter what, he was a human being, who he was, tattooed or not, it shouldn't justify who you are, it was just pretty jacked up the way he took his life. He had having family, having a daughter, so young. I don't think it's right how Officer Villanueva is still out there working, maybe not in the same neighborhood, but he's out there somewhere, who knows, he can kill somebody else. And, I don't think it's right he's still working. I just hope that, we can all come together and get justice for all these people, who's been killed, and, I'm sorry for the loss of, everybody, and, hope we can all come together. And it makes me happy that we're all here. Very, I'm sure there's, more protests, but we got this, and our family members, our loved ones, they will get justice. Just gotta keep that faith, and, God will come through.
So to echo a little bit of what Clarissa said, my cousin Jonathan Coronel was unarmed. He was shot 16 times. He was left with 22 gunshot wounds. He was murdered by Officer Christopher Villanueva. Less than a year before that, that same police officer also murdered Sergio Wake in the same community. So this officer has a long history of police brutality, and the department's condoning it by giving him paid vacation after he murdered someone and he left a daughter fatherless. We're organizing a march on December 2nd in Vista, in the Vista Civic Center at 11 a.m. I'll pass out some flyers in a bit, but we're hoping that all of you can come up, and Vista's a little bit of a drive, but if y'all can help us by a carpool, gathering up some people to just be there in presence and solidarity, it would mean a lot. There's a lot of police brutality going on in North County, and not a lot of things are undone about it. So we're really trying to get a lot of people to show up December 2nd, 11 a.m. Vista Civic Center, and we're gonna march. Thank you to everyone supporting, and we're trying to find justice for Jonathan Coronel, who was murdered at 24 years old, and also justice with all the other victims of police brutality.
Okay, next is Genevieve Huizar for the family of Manuel Diaz.
I'd like to thank you for inviting us down here to be with you guys, the families, victims of police murder. I've been fighting this fight for 5 long years. I've been to federal court once and we lost. My attorneys did an appeal and we won in the 9th District Court of Appeals. The city of Anaheim then spent whatever money it took to take my son's case to the Supreme Court, hoping that the Supreme Court was going to dismiss my son's case. But the Supreme Court said go back to federal court. So this Tuesday, October 24th, is our second shot at justice. Manuel Angel Diaz, 25, shot first in the lower back, and as he's falling to his knees, the second shot was to the back of his head. He wasn't committing a crime. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Running is not a crime. He wasn't being arrested or anything. He ran, the cop chased, pulled his gun out and shot. The cop, Nick Benelek, said my son had a gun. It was proven in court what was in his hand was his cell phone and not a gun. All these cops always say, I feared for my life. How can you fear if somebody's running away from you? How can you fear if somebody has their hands up? How can you fear? You shouldn't even have a job if you're afraid. And all these young men and women are being murdered by police. So many children are being left behind without their fathers and sometimes without their mothers.
We've traveled the state of California, and even there was one trip to Utah, reaching out to family members because we know your pain. We want justice for you just as much as we want justice for ourselves. And in this society, the just has become unjust in the court system. You can't even get a fair trial when they pick juries not from your hometown, or they go to the rich parts of town and gets juries from there. So, you know, the rich people, they don't know about us common people because they're too high up or something, I don't know. They just don't understand how we struggle to fight to pay bills. You know, everybody's working, everybody's trying to have a home. And, you know, being poor is not a crime. I do want to meet the family of Jonathan, and I have met Maria and Cruz, also Cruzwick. My shout out to you, Mama. And, you know, really my shout out to all the mamas across the nation that are going through this horrible time, because it never ends. I think of my son every day, night and day. I'm at work and I'm thinking of him. I'm at home in bed and I'm thinking of him. I have my memories when he was a little boy. He wasn't married and didn't have any children. So they stole that not only from him, they stole it from me. No grandchildren for my son. So I just want to thank everyone again for being here today. Thank you for inviting us. And, you know, keep your faith. Keep faith, because I believe in my heart that God has brought my son's case this far. Yes, it's hard work for the lawyers. Yes, you know, but I don't think we'd be here if it wasn't for God. And I just thank you all.
Thank you, Genevieve. Next is Marie Sales, family of Paul Quintanar.
Hi, my name is Marie Sales, and I'm from Our Realities. My son was killed in 2011 in Tustin, California. He was killed over a bottle of water. Been 6 years, still haven't gone to court yet. So everybody asks, why Our Realities? Because you know what? This is our reality. Police brutality fighting is our reality. Our reality is fighting police brutality. What we go through day after day, month after month, the realities of our families that break down, our families that snap, our families that lost loved ones and they can't cope. That's our realities. This is something that we all go through. We do this because we bring awareness, so another mother does not have to lose their child, so another child does not have to lose their life. It's time for San Diego to wake up. Wake up, San Diego, wake up, because police brutality is our fucking reality. This is what we go through every day, every single one of these families. And the ones that don't go through it, the ones that judge us, they better watch out, because it can happen to them also. And that's the problem. There's so many people that will judge us and call us names and say that we're the ones that started, or our family, the victims are the ones that caused the problems. They don't realize that you don't have to do anything to be killed by the police now. They're so damn trigger happy. So we're here to bring awareness. We're here so another mother does not have to lose her child. Another child does not have to lose their life. Wake up, San Diego! Wake up, because police brutality is our reality. Thank you.
Okay, I told you I would tell you a little bit more about Sergio. I wanted to make sure everybody had time to speak about their family member. Sergio was the funniest guy you would probably meet. He loved to break dance. He was a skater, and yes, he loved to surf. Go figure. But just because he was quote unquote labeled a gang member didn't mean he had to be shot 18 times. through the head, through an artery, and left there to die, to bleed to death. As they handcuffed him, and first responders were not allowed to help him. But yet they told everybody that the first responders were on the scene trying to revive him. That is not true. Officer Villanueva killed Jonathan Coronel 8 months later. Not to mention that 3 months prior to him killing Sergio, he had been transferred from Escondido Police Department for police brutality complaints. Go figure. And right now, I know for a fact he is back on the job. He is not in Vista, but he is in San Diego County working. Of course, you know, nobody cares. Why? Because our loved ones have a label. They're either Mexican, they're gang members, they're homeless, they have mental illnesses, they have whatever it is, society has labeled them. And I shouldn't even say society, because really the problem is with law enforcement. Every single law enforcement has labeled our loved ones, and because of that they have lost their lives. And now here we are trying to fight so that we can be heard, so that we can make changes. So don't stop by just walking and yelling and making signs and all that. No, we need to write our Congress people. We need to do whatever it is that we need to do, even if we start at city level, county level, state level. Go as high as you can, and together we can be heard. We can make a difference. Remember, it just takes one little win, but we can't do it alone. I know I can't, because I sure as heck am not Wonder Woman. I wish I was, but I'm not. So we need everybody, and I do appreciate, I know we all appreciate everybody coming down here and supporting us. Thank you again.
Hi everyone, my name is Brittany. This is my cousin Sade and my cousin Omar. We are the younger generation of our family. A lot of our family has had to deal with the recovery of losing a family member. When Kat and I had spoken, the reason why I learned about all of this was because my dad's story was featured through a documentary on the YouTube site, and I was curious to know how they had found it. And when she had explained to me that my dad's name is on the list of lives lost due to police brutality, terrorism, is because my dad committed suicide as a result of much of the mental burden that he had after post-traumatic stress from his situation. If you aren't familiar with my dad's story, my dad was apprehended and was in a situation where he had to, if you can hear me now, my dad was in a situation where he was pulled over by a police officer and was asked to give his information when he handed his wallet. My dad was eventually in an altercation with the officer, who began to pull out a baton and beat on my dad. My dad was very skilled in Taekwondo and had an incredible self-defense ability, and because of that ability, his nature was to block and stop himself from being hurt. And once they had him on the ground in the altercation, a gun was pulled out, and when there was a scuffle for the gun, my dad had tried to save himself in that position. Unfortunately, a police officer behind my dad, from what I understand in research of the case, was shot. And my dad fled the scene and was very upset and didn't know what to do. He was in a complete state of panic, and even went and turned himself in for the situation because he didn't know what to do. And in that situation, he was in a court case, and in that court case, my dad had to defend himself, and the prosecution was going hard on my dad and labeling him as a cop killer. And so through it all, after my dad was acquitted twice, he was tried not only once, but twice. Once he was acquitted both times. Although, and what makes me sad for these families is, although the families have had a loss because of the situation, and in that moment that person's life was taken, even though my dad survived the situation, and unfortunately a life was lost in the situation, a police officer was also killed in the situation, my dad didn't live on in freedom in his perspective. My dad eventually took his life July 4th of 2002 because the burden of all that he was facing after the case was not freeing enough for him, and his suicide left behind not only me and the family, but my brother and my sister as well. And for me, the post-traumatic stress caused my dad to have a lot of turmoil in his life, to the point that my mother went on, and I wasn't able to be with my dad anymore, and she had to leave for her own choices as a mother because it was too great of a burden for her in her own situation. But for me as a daughter, and I think of all the families who are saying so-and-so was lost and so-and-so was lost, and they leave behind a daughter, and they leave it. I am one of those daughters that is left behind. Maybe not my dad was killed in the line of the fire that was in the altercation he was involved in, but I live on to understand what it means to want to meet your dad and want to be with that person that was a victim of something that caused his life to feel so burdened that there was no freedom for him. So that's my dad's story, and for me it's a lot of looking back, wishing, oh my goodness, I wish my dad was here to see this. I wish somebody would have been there to maybe Copwatch in this way, so that there would have been a chance for him to still live on. Everything happens for a reason, although sometimes we don't understand that reason. What has pulled me through this situation for me has been faith and understanding, but we have to unite as people to bring awareness, to bring peace, and to remind, no matter what we're wearing, no matter what color our skin is, no matter what our role is, that we're human beings, and that we have to first look at each other with the heart to understand that we're spirits. We're looking one another soul to soul, and that we need to unite. And I appreciate this type of awareness and protest, because I'm looking out, and I was amazed that somebody who's not in the minority is the one who's trying to push this. And that's why I told Kat, I said, wow, because it doesn't stop at just a color. Right now what we're facing is a position, and there's a lot of systemic issues. And for me, I'm really bothered to see that the system is constantly bringing people down, and I want to see more justice, not only for the families who've lost people, but to prevent, to be more proactive. And so for me, I'm here in support of that, in support of the awareness. We have things that are on our hearts that we're trying to work towards, and we love what's going on in order to bring that awareness, and hopefully we can come to a beautiful harmony in the future. That's why we do this. We don't just do it aimlessly. And so I'm here in honor of my father, and I'm in honor of just the plight that's happening, the goals that are trying to be accomplished here, and for the homage that I've paid to the families who have lost fellow loved ones. I understand the hurt, but I don't want this to happen even to somebody who is supposedly set free, and then they have to deal with that mental, burden, that mental hardship because it happened here. So I'm just grateful for that. I just want to see more peace and more continued peaceful protests, because like Martin Luther King Jr. said, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. So we can't sit here and keep on with this same hamster wheel effect. There has to be something that's said. So that's why I speak out, and I speak on behalf of our family, and just saying that there's a lot of things that have to be healed in this process. And I'm just very grateful for the brave people that are able to speak up and represent their family members. And my dad's situation is known, but not a lot of people always speak out about it as far as who's directly involved. So thank you so much. I allow my cousins to say anything on their behalf. We've got some things that we really want to push forward, and I open that up to them as well.
Hey, my name's Omar. Through dealing with this situation and realizing the issue of ignorance that's just widespread and affecting many lives, even the cops' family lives, if you don't do it to protect the people, do it to protect your officers, because there will be some cases where the officers don't make it out alive because people are now getting prepared. And now there's this fear epidemic going around where now someone can shoot an officer because they're afraid for their lives, and rightfully so, because there's evidence to where people are getting shot for anger reasons. There's officers that are carrying a lot of emotional distress and taking it out on other people. When you shoot someone 10 times, that's just hate, you know, that's you taking out whatever emotion that you're holding out on some life that, and it's not just one life, you know, that you're affecting plenty of lives with one burst of anger. So the police department should do something to better take care of their police officers so that and so that we can save everyone some pain and distress, and that's all I have to say.
A side note, just to give you the character of my dad, I didn't get to explain, but my father. A side note to give you the character of my father. I asked so many questions. So please tell me more. Tell me what it was like before he underwent the stress of the case and everything that happened. My dad was known, and my mother is explained so many times, to be a very sweet man, very calm and reserved. He understood the art of self-defense and the art of being able to reserve your power and reserve your energy for peace, and he had a strong discipline against that. And so he wasn't a violent person, and he was the type of person that even was said to possibly want to go into a police force to protect and to serve, and to have hobbies that were more community based and loved people, and he just had that type of a temperament. So it's just unfortunate, you know, to see that people who don't have any type of, you know, anger or upset feelings deep down in their heart to start with can be switched because of a situation. I think the biggest thing that we've been working on and thinking about is how we can impact our future generations to know their rights, to know how to look out for one another regardless of their culture, their race, or their ethnicity, and also to stand up for each other because they have something, you know, in common, and that's the fact that we want to be peaceful with each other and we want to look out for our fellow human beings. We bleed the same color. It's not about color, it's not about that. And it's also to make sure that the police force recognizes that when that badge comes off, we're just the same. We're not supposed to look at each other in any hierarchy or any supposed force against each other. We're supposed to be in peace. So we promote peace while we're here. We represent peace and love and the ability to have unity. And we just hope to forge some of that here and to just hold officers accountable and to know, hey, you know, we need to step forward and be held accountable for our actions, and to stop with the systemic, I don't want to call it ignorance, but the systemic influence of what the system is creating people to believe.
We pretty much covered it, but basically what I hope for the most is that we as a people, like she mentioned, come together and unite and implement new system policy and like enforcement rather than just focusing on one that's doing what it was designed to do and pointing at it and telling it what it's doing that it was designed to do, and that we come together and we create new policy, or we enforce new policies and support new policies that counteract these type of ignorances that are just continuing in our communities. And basically I just hope that we can all continue to come together in ways that create positive change.
Thank you.
Hello. It's a great pleasure to be here. Although I shouldn't have said it is a great pleasure, because the issue we are addressing is very serious. Before I go far, I think I would say that I think we need unity. This issue of police brutality can affect anybody. It was my son last year. It can be anybody this year. So, in effort to make the administration, local administration, understand that policing requires reform. Because the way my son was killed was not proper. My daughter noticed that my son was not behaving well. And the reason was that my son had lost a friend. I started training them playing soccer when they were still young. And they were like brothers. And his friend was from Ethiopia. So when his friend died, he became disillusioned. My daughter stated very clearly that my son did not have any weapon. She also stated that he is not behaving normally. Right. The first police officer who went to the site where my son was killed started using a teaser. The second officer, who is Richard Gonzalez, came and went straight to action. He violated police standard procedure. And the violation of police standard procedure started from the office of the police department in Helgahon City. Yep. Because when my daughter said that our brother was not behaving well, and he didn't have a gun, the police department should have known that. They shouldn't have sent a person like Richard Gonzalez, who went for a 911 call, who went like a firing squad officer. These are some of the technicalities we have to address when we are dealing with the police brutality. Because if the department can send a wrong officer for a wrong duty, the department has a problem too. Now, when these two officers arrived at the site, one was using a teaser gun. The other one, Richard Gonzalez, who killed my son, used a gun. Now, if you're a professional police officer, here are two police officers who were trained in the same training college. Oh, by the way, in San Diego, they are trained in the community college. They don't have police training school. So they were trained in the same community college. Now, how come one uses a teaser, the other one uses a gun? It means the training system, there is a problem in it. I was talking in the downtown hall, and the police chief said, our officers get 500 hours of training. I said, no, madam, you are a chief, but I think you are wrong. A police officer to come out as a professional police officer, his coming out is not based on the number of hours. It is based on passing the police exams. He must pass discipline, psychology, criminology, and human behavioral science. Without this, a police officer is not a professional. Therefore, when you tell me that your officers are trained 500 hours, my dear police chief, you're wrong. I'm a commissioned officer. You are wrong. I will send them back to the training school. Because they are not ready to work with the people. You cannot send a discipline officer in the field with a gun. He's going to kill somebody or he's going to be killed. It is a two-way traffic. Because if a police officer is not properly trained, he can be killed in the field. This is a fact. He can kill somebody because he doesn't know his job. So this is a training problem also. Because police officers should not come out because they are trained 2,000 hours. No, they must pass so that they come out professionals. And there is a problem. There is this issue of recruiting police from ex-military officers. This is a big problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Because a military officer has been training in the military college, maybe 2 or 3, 4 years. He was trained there to kill. He was in the field fighting wars.
That's right.
And he was killing people there.
That's right.
These police officers, when they come back, they are already radicalized because they have been dealing with radicals You cannot fight your enemy if you don't know his tactics. So because they know the tactics of the people they're fighting for, they themselves become radicals. Therefore, they are not fit to be police officers. Because police officers are supposed to be peacekeepers. They are supposed to protect people. These are two different departments. So that is an area which needs to be seen very seriously. Because some of these police officers who are in the field, they have already post-traumatic stress disorder. This is a fact. Now, how can you give a gun to a police officer who has stress disorder? Post-traumatic stress disorder. A sick officer. This is again the problem of the administration. So, that is why you see that when a person is killed like the way my son was killed, the police chief comes in, the district attorney comes in, the mayor comes in, and the police union comes in. Do you know why? Because they want to block the case. They will say the killing was justified, even if the police officer was wrong. So where is justice? America is a leader of the free world. How can America show us that there is justice? This is a question I've been asking since my son was killed. How can they show that there is justice? Because if a police officer kills somebody wrongly, he should be punished.
Yep.
If it is a murder, he should be charged for murder.
Yep.
Now, how can a police chief say that the killing was justified? How can a district attorney say that the killing was justified? How can a mayor say, no, the killing was also justified? And the police union stands behind the killer. These are the problems. Unless these problems are solved, the killing will continue. And when people start knowing why their people are being killed wrongly, things are going to be very bad for the police department. Believe me or not, I'm an officer. Because people have to trust you so that you can go and work with them. But if your people do not trust you, you are going to work within enemies. The people you are going to protect are going to be like your enemies. And people will not call police. Or if they call, they will be ready. If he comes and shoot, I will shoot back. This will be justified because that is defense. There is a right for self-defense. And the way my son was killed in Recao City, you think if I was there, I would be standing seeing Gonzalez killing my son? I will show him that I'm a commissioned officer. But anyway, we are not going in that direction. So, it really hurts when your loved one is killed. And most of this killing, the people who are still very young. Look, it cost me 38 years to raise a son. It cost me 5,000 miles to escape with my son from a war zone and come to America, only to come and bury my son. That doesn't make sense. And the officer who killed my son, my work of 38 years was finished in 1 minute, 29 seconds. Can you see this? Is this just? Is this fair? And when the police officer in the police department sent a wrong officer, that was a red flag. When he came and used the gun, and the other officer was using teaser, that was a red flag. And then he shot my son 5 times. So if he was only shooting to restrain my son, he shouldn't have shot him 5 times. Because police officers are trained to shoot to restrain, not shoot to kill. But after doing investigation myself, I found that in the training school, they are trained to shoot in the mass. When you shoot a person in the mass, you are shooting to kill. But that is not the work of the police. So you see, we have problem with the way the police are trained here in San Diego, maybe in other parts of the United States also, which needs to be corrected. Excuse me. That is why we are forcing and we are talking very strongly about police reform. So that when a police officer kills somebody, and then there is proper training, that police officer should be answerable and accountable. It should not be, there should not be anybody standing behind him like the district attorney, police chief, the mayor, and the police union. Because he has killed a human being. Why should police officers be treated differently from other citizens? Now, let me ask a simple question. If it was me who killed Richard Gonzalez's son, where would I be now? You see this confusion? And you see this discrimination in the public police department? That is why I say that let us join together and work like a team, unity in diversity, and make sure we get police reform.
Yeah, justice or else.
If we get police reform, we shall get justice. You see? So the problem why our kids or our brothers or our husbands or our whatever can be are killed is not because at times they are wrong. It is because the department itself is not properly handled. And it has been a culture already. Because you cannot change a culture quickly. A culture is what somebody grows in and lives in and becomes a way of life. So that is the way of the department, which requires reform. There's no any other way. So thank you very much, you guys, for coming. And I thank you all, the people who lost their relatives. It hurts. It hurts. Let me tell you something before I leave. On the day my son was killed, I almost lost 3 people. Because my son was killed in front of our sister. My daughter collapsed. All right. When we called home, my sister collapsed from Africa. So almost 3 people died for one mistake here in America. And I came to look for protection, safety, and peace. But what I got was to bury my son. It hurts. Eh? And they will only know one day if they lose a person who is very close to them, then they know that losing a person really hurts. Thank you, brothers and sisters.
Justice or else.
Justice. Justice, the only thing we need. Justice, and we need it now. And we need unity. The fact that we have diversity should not divide us. Our differences should not divide us. When it comes to issue like this, let us work as a team. Then we are going to produce results. Complaint is not going to help. We have to address the problem. We have been complaining for 100 years because we were not addressing the problem. We need to address the problem, then we shall see the results. Okay? Thank you, brothers and sisters.